If you're confused by my look and you're like, I don't see how this is a cosplay, I don't know what to tell you. There are limits to what I can do. The main Winx series, it is back. This time it's a full-on reboot, actually. No soft reboots here this time. And you know, in my opinion, it's always gonna be yay to a full reboot, because I think that soft reboots is kind of nonsense when you're aging down your entire demographic.
Do you by chance have a gun I could borrow?
It's not a good idea. Come on. Winx Club, The Magic is Back is a CGI or 3D animation production that went through a million iterations before it arrived on our screens. Quick note. That looks scary. That's so sorry about that. I have a literature club on Patreon now, even though it's called Fairy Literature Club, and it kind of gives you like a little bit of a feeling that we're going to be reading a lot of fantasy. We actually read a bunch of different things. Like the first one, we read an essay on abstract expressionists. The other one that we read was Annie Ernaux, Simple Passion. The one that we're going to be reading next, Cyborg Manifesto. If you like this type of stuff, come over. And if you want one of these butterflies that you can plop on any chain, it's in the description. My brand IDBY. I won't be focusing too much on the behind the scenes mess. We'll probably talk about it when the entirety of the series is out, to be honest, because if you've been following this franchise and saw what's going on, then you know that there's a lot of AI allegations, which, as some of you probably know, I'm not a fan of AI. If art is gonna become just an AI generated thing, I think that there is no point in making art anymore at all. Let's just end it. Right? I don't think that it's done a lot of good for us. This is a can of worms that can only be opened when or if I have a lot more info to share with you. When I saw that the 13 episodes dropped before their official release date on Netflix, I kind of thought that we were gonna get the entirety of the season, like 26 episodes, when it drops on Netflix, because I thought it was weird to release it like that if you're not gonna do it this way, you know? And no, the rest is gonna be out sometime in spring, apparently. Let's talk about art direction first, which is all about big creative decisions. Animation style is what I want to talk about first. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not really a fan of 3D animation in general. It's not my favorite. I think it mostly lacks style, and even the best examples have like way too much in common in terms of visuals with the rest of 3D animation. The biggest corporations have created a style that has been copy pasted. It still happens that people develop new styles. It's just like more rare, I guess, that they actually do that. Doesn't mean that all 3D animation is like ugly or bad or something. No, but I just love weird creative decisions, and I love when people just go for it with something new, you know? So as soon as I saw the style of this reboot, I knew that animation, it's not gonna be interesting to me stylistically. You know, the original was a blend of things, and it also had a shit ton of mistakes. I think we all know it. There were some stylistic choices that I think looked pretty interesting, even though technically they are kind of lo-fi in a sense. Like, for example, really flat backgrounds, the Althea apartments and stuff like that. It always had a bit of a flat look. I didn't mind it. I think that it has a certain charm, and because it was so consistent, I kind of just assumed that this is the style of the show, which I think it is. Also, particle effects and 3D pieces mixed in, which the 3D portions sometimes would look funny when they would place a little version of the character somewhere on their big lot. Sometimes those ones were really funky looking. Like, for example, Althea looked great, but the characters would look kind of horrible in 3D. It didn't really bother me that much because it was always rare and from afar. And also, just in general, I think that it just all works together in a really interesting way. And I know that a lot of people don't like things like particle effects, for example. But I fuck with it. I'm gonna be honest with you. Regardless, I'm not gonna take points off for animation mistakes when they're small, like that shot of a skirt disappearing. I think that it should have been caught, especially because they're using it so much. There are some annoying mistakes that I'm also going to look past, like, for example, Stella's ponytails constantly not falling fully down her back and always standing up kind of like this. like this is her back, kind of like this, as if they're like antennas of some sort. It really makes no sense. Or Farragonda's sleeves, girl, where it goes closer to the cuffs. It has the appearance of having two cylindrical styrofoam pieces between her forearm and the fabric of her blouse. What the hell is going on there? It literally looks like there's something like solid inside of it. Basically, mistakes are inevitable, so I'm not going to pay as much attention to those little things. Just saying, for the sake of being fair, I guess. If you watch the original that's been re-rendered by fans, thank you guys for doing that. But whenever people re-render old shows, there's a lot of like machine guessing of some parts of the image where we end up with things like this. Can we fix it? Baby, can we fix it or fix it? It looks like Riven has really weird things instead of eyes. If you're watching that, you probably think Winx is like nothing but mistakes. It isn't. It's just what happens when a show is old. If we compare all Winx 3D iterations, the rendering, textures, etc. is better in the reboot than in season 6, but somehow the animation has gotten also a lot worse to compare to The Secret of the Lost Kingdom. This effect of being better in that movie is not because the movie has textures that are higher in quality, but because the concept art and style was still kind of adhering to what made Winx cool and appealing in the first place. Characters had something sophisticated and confident in their movement. They kind of made them look cool in a way that the 2D animation made them cool in the first 3 seasons. You know, Bloom's dad still looked horrible. It's just kind of how it is, you know. Same for most specialists. But even as a kid, I wasn't really a fan of 3D version of Winx, and that was the first 3D version of Winx. But looking at it now, it was definitely a more fitting iteration of the characters, just in terms of its translation from one medium to another. Most of all, they looked cool. This is important, people, okay? You're trying to appeal to a very young demographic. That's what they're saying, right? Which is also a bit of a mistake, to be honest, not because they need to be specifically targeting the 8 to 13 demographic as they used to before. I just think that maybe after all these years of trying to reboot the show for a very, very young audience, they should be instead try to go into family content, like all ages content, because that way you get the biggest sample of the population, so you kind of have more of a chance of getting to be kind of a staple, you know what I mean? I honestly don't know why they're trying with the young demographic. You're competing with Cocomelon and videos of dancing fruits at that point, and honestly, you're wasting too much money producing that show if that's your demographic. It's just not a good business decision, and this is what's baffling to me every single time. Do you know what I mean? It's important for them to be cool because that's what will make people root for them when they see that the protagonists look cool as hell. And I know it sounds shallow, but it is just how it is on a more basic level. Like, tell me why Tricks are always surviving every remake better than the Winx. They are consistently clearer than Winx every single time. Even though Winx used to wear really bright outfits, they still looked cool as a group, and you had faith in them in any fight just by vibes alone. Now it's like, damn, can someone call the parents or the teachers to fight the Tricks, because I'm worried for these baby girls compared to Tricks, even though they're supposed to be around the same age. I do want to say that the animation, it looks fine, not in terms of fluidity of movement, but just like the models, you know, they're on par with many 3D animations of our time, except for the guys, but that is a classic. Can we fix it? Baby, can we fix it or fix it? Maybe it's a bit better than some other 3D men. And yes, do not start me on Brandon. I am going to be upset. Genuinely, they butchered him. He doesn't have that same charm anymore, unfortunately. You know, it's so weird because in some angles he looks better than in that first teaser that we got, you know, and then it doesn't last that long, honestly. Sound and music. We've got some generic pop music, you know, ballads, upbeat music, which is pretty typical. A lot of OG Winx music was also like that. It was comparable, not in terms of some of the instrumentation. I think that Winx does benefit from injecting more of the Italian flair when it comes to literally everything. It just makes more sense. Some things, they're created in a certain place for a reason, and a lot of things work better with it because of where it was created. So there were a couple really good songs in the first 3 seasons, as well as Enchantix. Enchantix was amazing. You know, this song, I think it was appropriate for the transformation, and then they stepped up their game with Winx in concert. You know, like the videos and songs, they were bangers. Now in this reboot, we have kind of a mixed bag so far, just like the OG 3 seasons. The credit song is cute, for example. That witch song is pretty fun as well. I think that song that Winx performed together at the concert, also kind of cute. I was grooving. One thing about many of the songs is that the voice doesn't fit the song. It is the case, in my opinion, for the song that plays when they are training to fly better. The song itself is very fun Eurotrash type of song, which I am all for because it's fun. Who doesn't like some fun? Like, yes, that's what it's supposed to be here, you know, what it's supposed to be about here. But the voice is just... I think it's the same voice as in the remake of Under the Sign of Winx. It's not a bad idea to re-record that song. It's quite an old recording. It makes sense that you would want to re-record it. However, that singer, her voice just makes no sense for this song. I'm not saying her voice is bad. I think it's just not fitting for the vibe of the song at all. Both songs, the one that plays in the beginning Under the Sign of Winx and the one that plays when they're training to fly, her voice is a bit more smoky and too grown for this, to be honest. I think that usually you need a bit of a brighter tone or timbre for the song to work really well for something like this. And I think that her voice is not a good fit for synthetic production. If she's making music outside of this, I think that she should maybe look into more organic and real instrumentation, not synthetic instrumentation, because it's just not, it's not her wheelhouse. There's one thing that really fucking bothers me about that song, about Under the Sign of Winx, and it is in the production and mixing of the track. There's this stupid ass hit sample, or whatever kind of sample it is. I don't fucking know. I think it's like a block sound, like wooden maybe. Girl, that stupid sample goes bong bong. Winx, if your hand is holding mine, we can fly through space and time. It's not on beat. It's a little bit, you know, sometimes some beats, they have sample placed on every beat or off beat, you know. This one, I was so annoyed by it because it's just slightly off to compare it to the rest of the beat, and it seems so unnatural because this is just a regular track that you put together in fucking Ableton or something, and there are literal lines that tell you where it's supposed to be. You know what, if you're into production or if you are a drummer specifically, let me know. Maybe I'm mistaken here. I don't think I am, but maybe I am, right? The point is not to cause dissonance, okay? Let's start there. They're making a regular pop song. It's not supposed to be, you know, weird or too experimental. It seems to be too early to be on the offbeat. It seems to be too late to be on the beat. The placement of the drum in terms of time, but there's also the placement of that sample in terms of space. That is literally driving me nuts, okay? If you imagine the sound when you put your earbuds in, you imagine the sound around you. There's waves of sound going on around you. And I'm sorry, this is gonna be so crooked. Oh, you have a beat, just like a kick drum that goes right in the middle. About the middle. You have the vocals that are quite central, but they are a little bit further out, just a smidge. Them vocals have a lot of reverb on it, so the sound goes out. It just goes everywhere. This is where you get some other sound, like a synth or whatever, or like a part of the beat. And then you get one over here. And both of them also have reverb on it. What that does is it makes it sound like these three are very well blended together in a sense of them being in the same space. Not always the case, but in this case, that's what it does, okay? And then you have this stupid fucking sample just about here. Dry as fuck. And by dry, it means that it has no reverb on it, okay? It doesn't echo at all. It just goes... Waves, if your hand is holding mine. They're just stabbing me in the middle of my cranium because it's offbeat and it doesn't blend into the mix. Why? Why? Producer, just why? What happened there? This sample is the embodiment of loud and wrong as a concept in a musical form. Speaking of transformations, I have commented on them before. I'll link the video if you want to see it, but we kind of got a second transformation already, but just for Bloom, not for the rest of the girls. It is, I guess, basically a way for Bloom to use her full dragon flame power. I don't think they explained it yet. I think that they're going to probably explain it in the next episode. I don't know why they did that whole thing. I think that maybe they wanted to try and do something exciting, I guess. I don't know why they did that already, because it does not feel like a huge achievement because they haven't built it up, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of an issue that we've been having since, what? I guess the Charmix had that problem, then Enchantix didn't have that problem. Then Believix, it was kind of not a problem just because the whole concept of the transformation was completely different. We kind of got a better approach with Serenix than with like Charmix or whatever, but then it was just like a mess since then. So whatever. As an outfit, I felt like it reminded me of something, so I was looking and looking and looking, and I remember that it kind of reminded me of Sailor Moon, you know what I mean? But then I was kind of confused because I was like, wait, the OG outfit, I don't think it has that much in common, so why do I think of Sailor Moon when I'm thinking of this outfit? I looked at her power-ups, and I think it reminds me of Moon Crisis and Moon Eternal looks. It's not a bad thing. I think it's really interesting to see Bloom's transformation have so much white in it. I don't think we've ever had that happen. I like the outfit, I just don't like how unearned it feels. And story arcs are actually the biggest problem here that we kind of have to break down in two parts. And we're gonna start with, where the hell are they rushing off to? Yeah, so the pacing in the show, it's really something. Let me be clear, this is a new show with new villains and heroes added, but for some reason, it is also a show that tries to have both the new story and the old one coexist in one place, but in a lot shorter of a time. Damn, there's something always poking me in my eye. It is important to note that a lot of people have different tastes when it comes to pacing and story structure. And obviously that can influence the end result drastically. I think the original had some pacing issues that in many ways was a problem with dubs in different languages, which I know sounds strange, but the dialogue and the speed and the way that it's directed really does affect pacing a lot, or at least how it feels, whether the pacing is quicker or slower. And it doesn't depend on how quickly they speak, it's more about the banter, I guess. When it comes to full season arcs, I actually think the first 3 seasons did pretty well on that one. Let me explain this particular episode and how this reboot is going about it, and why it's important to compare the first episode to the original, and why it's not important to compare all the other things to the original. Not everything needs to be compared. It's not about comparison per se in terms of the original being better or something, but this is definitely gonna show you what I mean in terms of pacing issues. When the reboot changes something in terms of storyline entirely, we can kind of look at it and be like, do we like it more than the original? Do we not? But it's gonna be a lot of apples to oranges type of situation, you know what I mean? Compared to the first episode, because the first episode, it's so similar that the issues jump out at you right away. And mind you, the pilot of the original has an issue that needed fixing as well, okay? Like, for example, why the hell did Stella even end up on Earth? It's not on the way to any of the dimensions or anything like that, you know? They just didn't think about it, but whatever. Let's take a look at the graph here, okay? Sorry if it's crooked. Okay, so both of these timelines of the English dub episodes. This one is the Cinnalum one, this one is the 4Kids one. I have subtracted the intro and outro from both, removed the teaser for the next episode, you know. So what I want you to focus on with these two episodes is the structure, how it was changed to fit cultural expectations, different preferences in terms of story structures and whatnot. Both dubs are in English, but one of them stays true to the original structure. So the original starts with the morning time and the relationships with parents. This is basically Bloom's life at default, okay? Then at about like 3.5 minutes of the episode, we get the inciting incident, the conflict, the ooh moment, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really matter. Bloom sees Stella because Kiko dragged her further into the forest. They fight off Nut and his gremlins. Establishment of Bloom and Stella's relationship and like their dynamic. At about 11:40, we see Althea. Whatever the fuck. There's not enough space to write the whole thing. But in this moment when we see them kind of establishing their relationship, they're also showing how Stella is interacting with her parents and stuff like that, right? There's another battle that breaks out at about 14:14. We also meet the specialist. At about 18:25, Bloom's parents go to Althea with her. Okay, they obviously go because, like, you know, they're responsible parents and care about her, but end up being stopped by the barrier that doesn't let people without magic in. They leave. I still felt this was unrealistic when I was a child because I was like, my mom wouldn't leave me there. She would not trust this unless she gets to meet Farragonda. She would literally drag me back to Gordinia until she meets the principal and sees the actual school. So it was always a little bit unrealistic, but at least there was like a reason given, what not. Anyway, that's the original Italian structure of the episode. And then 4Kids version was made to fit American sensibilities when it comes to jokes, music, pacing, etc. The biggest difference between what Europeans are used to and what Americans are used to in stories is that Americans have been slowly but surely moving closer to the Hollywood style of storytelling in everything. You know, it influenced basically every type of storytelling medium there is, which moves the inciting incident or conflict up to the very beginning. Bloom starts the episode by already riding her bike.
For me.
Will do, Mr. Gennaro. See you later.
To the park where she meets Stella. And the morning sequence happens at 3:28. Then at about 11:30, Bloom sees Althea. They get another battle and meet specialists. At 16:15, somewhere here, parents go to Althea. This basically has a lot of the same scenes. They kind of read up. There's a lot more different jokes. They kind of create their own lore here and there, but omitting some of the smaller scenes that are not as important because, you know, you can see that the length is definitely shorter. We go to Althea at the same point. We have the final fight a bit earlier than in the Cinnalum version or in the original version. Bloom parents still go with her. These two episodes have different pacing, as you can see. The structure of European storytelling is slightly adjusted to the American style, to its audience, yet both get a few crucial things down. Establish Bloom's norm before Althea, complete with the dynamic with her parents, a bully, her usual hanging around with Kiko, what she wants and yearns to do, what she used to do a lot. It establishes some laws of magic here, Nut and mysterious at that point tricks, specialists, and it brings Bloom to Althea in a more or less believable manner where her parents act like parents would, even if the story undercuts it for convenience. Neither story structure is, right or wrong per se. It was changed to address the cultural expectations to hook American audiences in quicker. Different pacing, you can like whichever, both have issues. But it's also undeniably good in terms of hitting the points that would make any kid ages 16 to 13 lock in. Now, the reboot sticks to a similar setup. Story-wise, the episode without the intro and outro is 23 minutes. We open on Bloom in her room, but the first sequence, it's very, very short, even though it's supposed to show her parents and her having a relationship. The inciting incident, just like in the American version of the dub, it's moved up to the very beginning, basically. Oh, I was a regular girl, then I turned 16, and then my hands started to burst into flames. Honestly, why do that if Bloom still ends up meeting Stella and using her power in the park anyway? Bloom goes to the park and runs into Stella and Flora fighting a monster that I assume it's supposed to be Nut, but he's kind of a beast and that's it. He doesn't really have a character or humanity to him anymore. He's just like a monster. Why are his feet hands? Can we fix it? Baby, can we fix it? It's just literally human hands made giant. It is grossing me out to such a degree, and like for what? She sees Althea, well, she doesn't, I guess. She gets taken somewhere through the portal, presumably to Althea, but then we cut to Bloom with her suitcase saying bye to her parents. I don't know, this time she lies to them that she got accepted to some random boarding school, and they just go, as long as you're following your heart, we're happy. What is this? Do these parents not give a single fuck about their child? That sounds crazy. Bloom's dad hands her stuffed Kiko, as if he's trying to blast her away with Stella's solar flare.
Forget Kiko.
And yeah, Kiko is a stuffed animal now. Stella and Flora don't talk to her parents at all, by the way. And then she goes to Althea, technically, right? So you might think this is okay for like one episode, right? Aside the fact that a lot of like interpersonal stuff gets overlooked, but this isn't the first episode, actually. It is the first 4 minutes. Yeah. Based on a lot of beats that happen in the first 13 episodes of this season, the reboot is trying to basically fit as many references as it can to the original without delivering on what was great about it, you know? Like Cliff Notes versioned it up the entire way through while trying to tell somewhat a new story parallel to this, you know? It would be clumsy but overall okay if the new story was well done. It genuinely would have balanced out the nonsensical nostalgia baiting. All this to say, even though the first 4 minutes were incredibly condensed, maybe it's not a big deal if we get to see all the important things established in a somewhat satisfying way. So we still have 19 minutes. So let's look at what we get in terms of story beats. One inciting incident is already on the board, and that's a pretty big inciting incident. Bloom left her parents with Stella and Flora and her suitcase, but here she's entering Althea on her own, as if she traveled here without them, without Stella and Flora. And they are somewhere on campus waiting for her. Why?
Those are witches. They've got their own fashion thing going on.
Okay. I guess this scene in the quad is supposed to set the dynamic up between those three. It's very bland so far, aside Flora vandalizing the school by planting a flower seed in the quad's flooring, or whatever the hell you call that in English, and Stella helps her to make that plant massive. I mean, why break what's already broken to make it even more broken? It's a really weird thing to just do, to be honest. Meeting everyone. There's a really fucking weird scene happening when they get introduced to each other. Put a pin in that. They get punished for bringing Bloom to Althea. God knows for what reason, because Farragon already knew about Bloom existing and she was gonna get her herself. I understand that this is like maybe dangerous or whatever the hell, but why is it dangerous? Why is not just around attacking people? Is that normal? But whatever, you know, it's not that big a deal. Then Bloom and Icy meet at about 7 minutes in. Then Icy destroys a statue right in front of Griffin to blame it on Bloom, as if you can't see that it's eyes, as if you can see her and Stormy doing this like theatrical attack. What the hell is that about? Because of that, they get punished more.
It's the only way to assure future peace.
X2. And they go to the stables to clean out horse shit, okay? Or like changeling shit. That's when we meet Damien, who tells them to leave, and like, okay buddy, no one wants to clean up actual feces. I don't know if you've heard, but they would gladly leave it up to you if they weren't literally punished and forced to do this. What on earth? It just doesn't make any sense. And then Bloom grovels, begging to be able to clean shit.
Please, Damien, let us clean up. You'll be doing us a big favor. We promise we won't get in your way.
Icy and Bloom talk in front of the bunch of like animals, and Icy tries to bond over thinking that the animals' collars are too tight. Bloom gets manipulated by Icy to loosen the collars, letting all of them change into monsters basically because they are changelings. Here's like another conflict in the story, right? And even though it's like the most important one in the story, sorry, spoilers. It's not at all as exciting as, you know, running into two fairies, finding out you're one too, fighting a troll before deciding to go to a different dimension. It's just not gonna be as high as this on this graph here. I don't know. It's not even worth this much, but let's do it like this. Come on. Let's be generous. Now we're meeting the specialists. Because they are the first responders. I don't know how they heard about this quick and got there this quick, but whatever, magic, who gives a shit?
Delicious.
Really? I mean, considering their design. The girls go with the guys to catch the animals. And also, Bloom, if you want to go out and help and be actually helpful, maybe you should be able to like hike up a little rock without having to have somebody pull you up. Trix led 2 of the animals into Bloom's old school. Yeah, you know what? That was way too high. This one here. Why is she checking the damn stalls? The toilets? Those big bums won't fit in there. What are you even doing? They're back to normal, so the storyline. So if we're gonna graph it out, this is what we get. Are you guys seeing what my issue is with this episode? It's supposed to introduce everyone to the series, but we start with a bang in terms of what happens. Not the execution, but it's, you know, it's undercut, it's made boring with the rest of the episode not living up to that first inciting incident. It's like there's a spark that gets snuffed out for the sake of the rest of the episode, but all we get is more weak smoke coming off of it. There's another possibility here that, you know, they didn't want to make a full intro episode and just wanted to be at Althea already, you know what I mean? And honestly, going for a bit of an intro sequence that would be at the start of every episode could have been a great fix for that, I guess. You know, kind of like Buffy season 1. Is it a cliche? Yeah, sure. Would it be better to do a proper intro episode? Yeah. But if they wanted this changeling thing to be their first episode, they could have done it this way, while also always having this like enticing intro sequence. On the only planet that has no magic in all dimensions, a new fairy was discovered. 2 students from the biggest fairy academy on planet Magix have brought her to their school to learn about her powers and how she could possibly be a magical creature from Earth. Who is Bloom? A little cringe? Sure. But it would make sense, because then the rest of the episode doesn't feel like a letdown, stakes-wise, you know what I mean? And second part of that, it's kind of like pacing, but more about how unsatisfying the resolutions or emotional points are in this season. For example, Bloom leaving to go back home. Girl. And this particular storyline is basically in parallel with season 1 as well, of the original show. The reason as to why those two are parallel, it's because of the reason Bloom goes home. In both seasons/episodes, Bloom doesn't feel like she belongs at Althea or the magical dimension because she feels like she can't get the hang of magic, customs, and life in general when she's in Magix. Both times she runs away, and in both she was planning to stay at home for good. One of these episodes feel like they have weight, a really good reason as to why Bloom leaves, and a very good reason as to why she would come back after making that decision. The other version is the reboot version. Now, once again, this isn't to say that the reboot needed to recreate the story beat by beat, okay? They could have just not done this storyline or do it for completely different reasons and still have the emotional impact, you know, logical core that would make that conflict interesting. What makes one of them work and the other one not, especially since season 1 has its own issues and some episodes that are either slice of life or just filler. in the original season, it feels like this emotional investment that the writers are asking for from the audience is actually earned. One of the reasons for that is the simple fact that Bloom leaves Althea in episode 18 of season 1. Even if you're not like super into the characters or their relationships, her decision to leave feels like a big decision because they spent almost a year living, studying, hanging out together. And you know, we all know that the reboot only has 13 episodes out. So which episode do you think Bloom goes back home? Episode 11, 10 maybe, right? No. 2. The second episode, yeah. Honestly feels like the creators of this show want to have their cake and eat it too, because they want to focus on the new story, okay? But they also rely so heavily on the audience that already knows these characters. I've known this franchise like what? All my life, but since it's a new show, you gotta write it like it is, you know? You have to make people care about these characters all over again. Yes, sure, I have a lot of nostalgia for this world and these characters, but I don't know these characters, do you know what I mean? Let alone what the demographic that they actually made this show for. There's like a similar issue in the first episode of the show as well. If I wouldn't already know what's supposed to happen in the intro to this series, I'd have very, very little to go off of. Another thing that makes it feel unearned is the reason as to why Bloom goes back. You know, in the original, she has to lie about where she's from to go to Althea. She gets in trouble a few times and gets lied to that not only is she a witch, but a descendant of ancestral witches, villains that destroyed a whole ass planet as well, which is at least somewhat similar, right, to what happens to Bloom in the first episode in the reboot. What really pushes her over the edge, though, is episode 17, where she fights an innocent girl, Diaspro, who she thinks is one of the Tricks. Once again, Bloom was on high alert because Tricks just lied to her about her background, and that's a big-ass lie, that she's like a descendant of the witches, you know, who destroyed Domino, which is her planet. She doesn't know that it is her planet yet, but whatever. And she thinks that because Diaspora seems to be saying that she is engaged to Sky. Sky, who turns out to be lying about his identity, switching names with Brandon due to Sky being under terrorist attacks all the time. Sky/Brandon being a guy Bloom was going out with. Damn, this sentence was convoluted as shit. Basically, Bloom attacks Diaspro at the biggest event at the specialist school, arms and skills exhibition, kind of like a military exhibition type of thing. They have a full-on violent fight, burst through the ground into the arena in front of all the royals and famous people from Magix, including all of the heads of magical schools.
Isn't she one of your students, Farragonda?
Yes, she is.
She has ruined my exhibition.
Please forgive me, Saladin.
All because Bloom thinks that Diaspora is like Darcy or Icy and is up to no good. Diaspora sees Sky and she's like, Sky, look at this crazy girl, she attacked me, protect me. And Bloom was like, Sky? What the fuck? You're Brandon, Sky's squire. And Sky, that little hoe who was engaged to Diaspora, was two-timing them while telling Bloom that he's single and just a princess squire. Now she looks crazy, she looks violent, like she attacked a very wealthy princess from his planet who he's engaged to. Because of jealousy. It looks like it's because of jealousy. No one knows that she was suspecting that she was one of the Tricks, right? And it's all in front of his parents. Yeah. Farragonda, Saladin, Griffin. Can you imagine the sheer level of humiliation that is? At that point, Bloom doesn't know that she has the dragon flame. She doesn't know that she's the princess of Domino, a destroy but still a real place. And she's not only romantically or socially humiliated in front of her peers as someone who was 2 times, you know, she's also humiliated in front of every important person there is, academically, fiscally, politically speaking. Honestly, how did she forgive Sky after that? I don't know. So she leaves, even though her friends tell her it's fine, dog, shit happens. Even though they were saying that, if you really think about it, nah, that was bad. That was pretty bad. She should take like a week off not see anybody. And I don't even know, how do you even go how do you even go on after that? It's bad enough if she would just find out that she was 2 times. That's already insanity. But to also have a violent fight over a guy in front of everybody, that's so fucking embarrassing. I can't. Anyway, you know why she leaves in the reboot? She accidentally lets the changelings out, even though she brings them back, and she has a hard time with controlling the flame when she's trying to make popcorn. So she naturally assumes that she's a witch. Yeah. By the way, being a witch is not supposed to be a bad thing, but now it is apparently. We're back, you guys. After being tricked by Trix into letting the animals out, and then seeing them get those animals into her old school where it's really dangerous that they, did that, they tell her to go check if she's a witch before the ceremony where they tell you whether you're a witch or a fairy, and she believes them. After she saw them with her own eyes open a portal and let the changelings into her old school, she believes them. Because no one gives a shit to write a compelling character, apparently. She just believes them, no question. I don't know what to tell you, girl. I don't know. And yeah, she leaves because of a vision she gets while following Icy's advice. She thinks she might turn into a witch, so she leaves. And that's it. That's it, you guys. I'm not even shitting you. And it would be one thing if she left because of that, like, oh, she's insecure or she's really scared or whatever the hell. But they turn sad music on and show us a scene of the girls hanging out in the living room. It's the one out of the only 2 scenes they could have used for that, because once again, she was there for less than a week in their time and for less than 1 episode our time. Girl, you watching this and you don't feel any gravity of the situation at all. And I mean, I'm not saying you're supposed to feel sad per se, and especially if you're watching it in a more detached kind of capacity as an adult, either thinking about the quality of the work or you're curious where the franchise is moving. I know that you're not supposed to feel really sad per se, but you should feel like the story earned it. It's not supposed to be something that your mind clocks immediately as something funny and not well thought out. And the resolution of this whole ordeal too, it just doesn't feel earned in the reboot, but has catastrophic effects in the original. In the original, Trix come after Bloom when they find out that she's on Earth alone, and they attack her parents, making it very difficult for her to focus and actually fight them, at least somewhat fairly. And they beat the living shit out of her. And the only reason why there wasn't blood and shit is because the show is censored. But the way that they threw her around is crazy.
Stupid little Winx. And very shortly, this great power will be in our hands.
They took her dragon flame, telling her that they are taking it because they can finish their ancestors' job of taking over the dimension and destroy anyone they want, just like they did on Domino. Bloom has to go back because now they're gonna create a massive army that's gonna kill a bunch of people and attack everyone she knows in magics using her power. She doesn't really have a choice unless she gives 0 fucks about anybody she's met there or people in general, really. It basically doesn't matter what kind of humiliation she suffered. It's more dire than her ego being bruised. And in the reboot, it's just her parents saying,
"We know this isn't easy, but hard things never are."
And Winx come out and get her. So, and the Trix, they do attack her trying to get the dragon flame without even knowing why they're getting it, because they just want to exchange it for something. They don't really know the power of it or anything like that. It doesn't seem like it. They miss every shot. They are not intimidating at all. Their laugh when they enter the scene is low-key comical.
You set all this up? Why?
Oh, no big deal.
Look, I did it!
How nice of you.
They had Bloom go back home and then go back to Althea. But for what? For what? Did it move the plot along? No. Did it show her learning something? not being afraid of being a witch because the witches study Althea too and are people too, or if the writers are hell-bent on like disliking witches and whatnot, showing us that she had to learn to believe in herself or something. But no, we don't get either one of that, even though the last option is kind of stupid anyway. Oh, I forgot. We got this important part of her story.
We know this isn't easy, but hard things never are.
Oh, and by the way, since the first episode, Jesus Christ, we have no idea who Mitzi is, okay? This is a new show. We don't know who this character is. We don't have her background. Now, Bloom in this episode and the previous one actually comes off as a dick here. I'm sorry. To old fans, we know who Mitzi is, but imagine being a kid watching this for the first time, and this is what you see of Mitzi and Bloom and their interactions. Like, the first thing you see is Bloom running into Mitzi full force, ruins her pants. That's debatable, but ruin her pants. And even though she says sorry, she shoves her while she's doing it. Mitzi goes after her into the bathroom and demands an apology on social media. Boomer much? Like, what the hell? Anyway, and Bloom shoves her into the stall. There's something breaking down the door, and they wrote this girl being like, Bloom, why did you shove me in here? Come on. And then afterwards, Bloom slips out. And I know that she's doing it just so Missy doesn't see the changelings or whatever the hell. But they could have just done it in a way where they slip out through that portal or through that hole in the wall, whatever the hell. Have Mitzi come out when they're already gone. But like you can do whatever you want, right? Because you can animate it to be whatever timing you want it to be. But instead, they make Bloom lock Mitzi in this stall with a broom. And listen, that would have been more or less fine, whatever shit happens, if the next time Bloom sees her, the day or two later when Mitzi tells her, did you really think you could get away with locking me in the bathroom? A valid question, by the way, a valid question. Like, what am I supposed to tell you? She says back condescendingly, nice to see you too, Mitzi.
Think you could get away with locking me in the bathroom?
Nice to see you too, Mitzi.
Girl, I would smack her if I was Mitzi. I'm not gonna lie. That's crazy. Bloom comes off as the bully here, okay? The only indicators here that Mitzi is not a gift herself is her demanding Bloom pays for her pants and the apology on social media thing. Like, that's nothing to compare to Bloom locking her in a stall, in a bathroom stall. What the fuck did this girl do to deserve this? Mitzi in the OG, right away you know what you're dealing with here, or who you're dealing with here, rather. But here, it's really something. Okay, so 3, space. It's not real. This one tripped me out like big time. From small things like Bloom looking at Stella and Flora in the quad, and then after spotting them, when she starts running towards them, they are not there. Even though they're supposed to be in the shot since they were moving to the right of the frame. Or this moment in episode 9 where Bloom and Farragonda have a tete-a-tete in her office, and Farragonda is sitting or like leaning on the table in front of it. She goes from that to suddenly being by the window as if she walked through the table. And no, this isn't a moment of the camera not showing her move around the table and I just got confused. No. At 22:08, Farragonda is sitting on the table. We cut to her responding to Bloom not moving at 22:12. She stands up, turns around, and the shot changes to a wider one showing that she's behind the table, and that whole 180 she did while talking to Bloom got her from being in front of the table to being behind it. Dude, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Table, it's like really massive, like kind of like shaped like this. She's sitting right here. One shot shows her sitting here. The other shot shows her sitting here. While that shot is going on, she gets up, then she turns around, and the next shot, by the way, she's still talking, so we know that these 2 shots are supposed to be connected. Like, the line that she's saying is connected. It's not a cut because there was like some time in between or something like that. She's suddenly right here. Why? This spatial collapse in episode 8 in the quad. We've got there in the quad, Bloom, Flora sitting right here. Tekna, standing right about here. Stella, right about here. Aisha goes right over here when Musa comes in to this little nook from the quad, right? She comes in here and she stands right here by this wall. And while Musa says that everything is fine, Bloom somehow goes from being right here to being right here, and leading her to everybody.
Musa, what's wrong?
Nothing is wrong. He'll sign me as his client.
Musa, that's incredible!
What the fuck was that? What was that? Did I pass out for like a minute? Even if we assume she walked all this fucking way in this period of time, they cut from a shot. It's like a shot like this. Sorry. With Musa. Right here, right? So this is Musa. And then the next shot is them walking together already. If you are going to do this, like, it's already not realistic, but if you're going to get Bloom to get all the way here in 2 fucking seconds or 10 seconds or whatever the hell, you have to show Bloom coming into the frame before you cut to them walking together. Otherwise, it looks like she just teleported and it looks like you put 2 shots together that weren't supposed to be in a sequence, one after the other. This is basics of fucking direction. What is going on? Whatever. It's just like as if time and space folds and unfolds every 2 fucking seconds, honestly. Later in that same episode, when Riven runs, girl, this is one of my fucking favorites for real. Musa and Bloom are attacked by Trix. Here's like this weird storm that they create, okay? Trix, here's Bloom. Here is Musa, frozen. Riven runs in, passes her by, gets here. So he passes by, he screams,
Go get Musa!
Bloom, next shot, Bloom running towards Musa. And what do you see in the fucking background?
Go get Musa!
Riven running past Bloom once again. Like, I'm not even kidding. They just don't give a fuck that he was already here and that in the next shot he should be here, not passing by again. Not a single fuck is given. I don't understand what's going on. And since we're talking about animations and the spatial issues with animations, let's talk about the way characters move. Internal logic of scene blocking. And yes, we have to mention Aisha's introduction because that was insane.
So excited to meet all of you.
Aisha, Fairy of Waves. You'll see my name on the food in the fridge.
This clip haunts me, I'm not gonna lie. Why did Stella stop like that and freeze like a mannequin? Why did Aisha introduce herself and cartwheel away? What was that? And you know what? When I heard that this is, it's one of the things that happened in the show, before I sat down and watched it, I thought people were exaggerating. I thought people were like, you know, kind of adding a little spice. Like they were just making a little jokey joke on Twitter, but they weren't fucking joking. I mean, what the hell? There's also moments like Musa singing in a funny pose. Brighter than the sun. But most of all, I gotta talk about the scene that happens right after Bloom clashes with the villain in episode 13. That one, girl. She has to be rescued. They run through the castle or through the fortress. As soon as they get to like another big room, they sit down as if around a bonfire. And you know, it would be one thing if they were like safe in a nook somewhere and they could have this conversation, right? Even then, there needs to be like some urgency because like Vexius broke out of the container that they have created like immediately. You know what I mean? Like, are we supposed to be afraid of him? Is he like an actually scary villain, or is this just child's play? Feels like it's supposed to be child's play based on your reaction. It's so weird. She's like, thanks for the save, girls.
Thanks for the save, girls.
Now I gotta cut you up on some hot goss. I have a twin brother and it's Damien. Whatever, way to ruin any semblance of stakes. Who gives a shit? Who gives a fuck? Why would you do that? Why would you have stakes? Why would you care that this is an important moment in this story? Why would you care? And also there's obviously some issues of like classic issues of dancing being bad in this show, but it's not unique to this reboot whatsoever, so I'm not gonna subtract any points for this. Like, it's just not fair, I think. So number 5, I know that you were like, oh, number? Yeah, so there are numbers. Number 5 is characters, okay? So this part is also a mixed bag because some characters just didn't have as much time to shine, but a few things right away. Bloom is cute, but she also has like no bite whatsoever. I did like that moment where she goes, yeah, I'm not running the fuck, I'm not hiding, and she goes back out to fight Vexius. That was probably her best moment this season. And most of all, she comes off really bad as like, you know, like a careless person in a mean way, you know, like kind of like a bully a little bit, but you know, in a way that's like not intentional, which is kind of bad. She's presented to be excitable, easygoing, and super sweet, yet that same character is setting her sights on Sky, a guy who's taken. Do you know what I mean? Like, thank God she says, oh, that's he has diaspora, I don't think it's right for me to go for him. But I don't like how the girls are treating it as like not a big deal. She meets diaspora almost as soon as she meets Sky. Since diaspora is not just a mean to others, sweet to him love interest or something, she's a girlfriend, it becomes quite weird that Bloom and Sky text each other every night. It's also really weird that Stella's like, what are you waiting for? Go for him. And the worst part is that when Bloom is kind of like, ooh, Flora goes, no, Stella, she shouldn't be doing that. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay, Flora, tell her. And then Flora just goes,
Things will get super messy if you rush in.
okay. What kind of nonsense? Even Flora doesn't give a fuck? That's crazy. Diaspora, by the way, the new Diaspora has ridiculous hair that really doesn't suit her and makes her look like a caricature of a character, not like she belongs in that universe, and she's like, she doesn't look like she's supposed to be the hot girl, you know, and she's supposed to be that, technically speaking. I think that's just kind of boring because right away, she's not at all someone Bloom should be worried about or anything along those lines. It's immediately obvious that Sky is gonna dump her for sure. They really lay it on thick too. Sky cringes every time Diaspora speaks. He's acting like he genuinely can't stand her, and yet he's dating her. For some reason. Doesn't bode well for anyone who wants to date him, including Bloom. If he acts like this with his girlfriend, yeah, both Bloom and Sky don't really look sympathetic here, to be honest. And I'm not saying that they have to be sympathetic, but if they're gonna be portrayed in the wrong here, it should be more intentional instead of looking like something that is normal or justified. I do think that they finally managed to show why someone like Musa would like someone like Riven. They made Riven a nice person, maybe a bit guarded, but that's about it. I actually really like him. It's crazy. Even the 3D model is pretty good. He, at the very least, looks like he's supposed to be good looking. A lot of characters feel closer to having a personality than they have been in years, which is nice. For example, Stella's fashion experiments are not used for a cheap gag. She's actually cute here and there. I like the voice actress, but the model, she looks fine at some moments and then really freaky in others. It's really all or nothing. It's similar to the rest of the Winx in like to different extents, but I think is most prominent with Stella, honestly. Flora has a pleasant character, even though her interest in Damien makes no sense. I'm sorry. I think it's more a problem with Damien than with Flora. Damien, I get that they wanted to change the story a bit, but why not make him Vexius's actual son and have him stick to the good side instead of giving him, and I want to underline this, the dragon flame? Yeah. Bloom has half now, technically. And if you're feeling annoyed, I gotta also tell you about the fact that the dragon flame was now, it was protected by Bloom's dad before, not her mom and her dad being able to wield it through his sword. It was not protected by Daphne before going to Bloom either. You know, it was just her dad. Listen, introducing a character that's going to take up so much time and space in a series, it's very difficult, you know? You have to put in a lot of work to actually make it work. You were telling me that they decided to make a character that's kind of like a secondary protagonist, okay? Give him the coolest power that Bloom had, have an unearned connection with Flora, and think that was gonna work out, people were gonna be like into it or something. Like, listen, I think there's this emotional core that's missing here. Damien is lied to by someone who he thinks is his father. What they should have done is give given him and Bloom some bonding moments over, you know, not understanding where they come from. Maybe some unexplained magical communication, like with Daphne, like both of them are seeing Daphne and then they figure it out or whatever. Instead of bonding over having a hard time flashing the toilet. And yeah, if you haven't seen the show, I'm not joking. Like, that's literally what they talk about.
Last night, I made a toilet tornado trying to use the magic flusher thingy again.
And it's like so easy for the others.
It's not fair.
Feels like Damien isn't real. And I wouldn't say that he's drastically worse than the other characters per se in terms of like how much characterization he gets, but a new character like him suffers from this lack of multidimensionality more because, you know, there isn't like 8 seasons of lore that people can dip their toes in if they want to find out more about him. Even if a lot of kids are new to this show, I don't think they're gonna be connecting with Damien that much, to be honest, as much as they should be, because considering, you know, how much screen time he gets. His dragon flame doesn't really make Faragonda or Griffin clock him like they did with Bloom. He's not able to conjure up any significant power, and somehow it doesn't ring any alarm bells that his father wants his power. That is somehow so powerful. How is it both the strongest power there is and the weakest, most useless power ever? What is it? A scapegoat other in a tyrannical society to be both the strongest and the weakest at the same time? Anyway, I hope that the second half of this season is gonna do something with Damien. Like, there's nothing right now. Even though he gets so much, it just doesn't stick. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like he's an actual character. He's just so boring so far. Vexius is also really boring, even though he's connected to Bloom's father. They have history and whatever. It just doesn't fucking work, bitch. I don't know what to tell you. And it's a shame that he's the villain of this season because the tricks are more entertaining in any iteration of this show. Okay, well, maybe not season 6 and 7, but you know what I mean. Come on. Vexius, he just feels very empty. He's so detached emotionally and physically from the rest of the action and the rest of the people in this cast. His pursuit of Bloom's dragon flame when he hasn't taken Damien's yet, at the beginning, it doesn't make any sense. I know that he finds out in the book later on that he can take Damien's or anyone's power if they willingly give it to him, but why didn't he try to do the same thing he tried to do with Bloom to get her dragon flame? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. It also makes no sense why he turned Bloom bad either. And quick caveat, okay? To talk about Dark Bloom, this storyline from the original grew on me as I grew older because of what it could have become in a less censored show. It's a season-long arc, okay? Of Bloom being slowly groomed and corrupted by Darkhar's demon that took the form of the new Althea professor. He is handsome, he's understanding, he is the only one who can help Bloom find out more about her family, about her past, and their relationship is quite strange. So strange, in fact, that Sky, Bloom's boyfriend at that point, is really suspicious and unhappy about her connection with that professor.
She would have snapped at anyone, you know? Even Avalon.
Now why do you think he's on my mind?
Hey, she's having fun without Avalon.
Still, I bet she wishes he were here.
As a kid, I thought it was so tedious, so tedious to add this jealousy act in the story because Professor Avalon was just helping Bloom. Nothing nefarious is going on. But when I rewatched it as an adult, I was truly weirded out by Avalon, or I guess the imposter. And not later in the story when they start dropping hints. That's when I figured that out as a kid as well. But before, way before, as soon as he appears.
Please, Professor, you do plan on showing us your evaluations, right? Come on, I want to see what you wrote about me.
Wait, let me explain before you read anything.
You see the professor yet?
I need to know.
I think so.
He constantly does one-on-one seances with her. Even the first meeting they have in his office, they have this weird, playful thing that happens, and it's underlined that it's weird behavior because Sky says that too. He literally says that it's weird that Avalon spends so much time with Bloom and not with other students. He also gave her weird herbs and drugs, I guess, before they did therapy or cognitive analysis sessions. It's weird, okay? Bloom literally gets brainwashed over the course of an entire season. Her pushing everyone away when she's in her Dark Bloom state, doing everything everything that the groomer asks for. It is very much reading like a metaphor for, you know, those inappropriate relationships. Even though this evil version of a character is not a new idea at all, I think the original made it feel very important because even in terms of like big plot points, it was relevant. Bloom turning bad literally cost them a piece of the codex that the villain needed. It straight up cost them a whole ass battle. And I think it was one of the last ones too. Like they already lost a bunch of codexes, so it was getting real dire. Oh, I'm starting to have dark circles because I've been filming for 2-something hours and it's in the evening. Ooh. Here, Bloom just becomes Dark Bloom because of one spell by Vexius. Also, Vexius tells the tricks to guide and show Bloom what the dark side is capable of, and like, well, what for? What's the objective here, lad? Also, Dark Bloom looks really funny. And also, we're gonna have to come back to this a couple of times, but the dialogue, girl.
Manners.
Move it or lose it.
What's gotten into you?
Sky, the handsome goody-goody. So easy to make fun of. Truth hurts, doesn't it? Oh, it must be so hard being your mother's perfect little boy. Later, skater.
And to think that I found the original insults cringe back in the day.
You want me to drop him just like Tekna did?
I just didn't know that it could get this bad. I just didn't know it could get this bad. Come on, you guys. Who knew? Who could have guessed that?
Later, skater.
I guess her dragon attack looks cool, but I'm a sucker for a dragon attack, so don't listen to me. The fight that Winx and Bloom have in that episode is not that bad either, except for the resolution. The resolution was basically this gift from the kissing booth. This is very common, so whatever. Honestly, who gives a shit? But the removal of that spell that involves all of the Winx using their positive memories with Bloom to do it. Girl, it's season 1. Season 1, episode 7. When they were doing the similar thing that didn't actually work either, but they were like trying to do the same thing, it was season 2. Okay, this heartstring tugging doesn't work when the characters don't know each other well, you know what I mean? And especially when the audience doesn't know the characters either. Oh, by the way, this Dark Bloom episode also has this moment with Aisha storyline that shows her parents being really strict and formal, not allowing her to call them mother and father, and the conflict being basically about them not wanting Aisha to like dance because she loves to dance, and they're like, it's not for no, especially like hip hop, I guess. Honestly, this conflict is just, it's not great. It is resolved quickly because of Farragonda paying a compliment to Aisha. And it seems like, dude, if your parents are as strict as this, one compliment from member of the faculty is not gonna fix it at all. Not allowed to dance hip hop. What in Footloose? It's especially confusing that they are this strict, but Aisha doesn't change into an outfit that they would find appropriate. Like she's still in her athleisure look that would honestly probably trigger people like that quite a bit. There's also this ridiculous part where they hug her parents hug Aisha, and Aisha says, whoa, my parents never hug me. Huh? Not only is this crazy and sad, okay, but the fact that they hugged her in front of everyone else, but they don't usually do that, this is so performative and gross. Like, I'm seriously concerned for this girl and her like home life, okay? But the main reason I'm bringing this up is because we get to see the guy who's supposed to be like her love interest, I guess. I assume that they're gonna lead it that way. Huh? Aside the horrible dance animation, I just don't get why he has to look like this. Just why? The last Winx member I haven't addressed yet properly is Tekna, and even though I'm not a fan of her being like the shy one now, I really enjoyed her lines. She got a lot of funny moments. She's not the same Tekna as before, but this one, she's got pretty good characterization, so it's totally cool. The characters in the reboot don't have to be a copy of themselves from the past. They just have to be more or less convincing characters. Before we go into the simulation room lore, let's talk about some scenes that I liked. In episode 6, the girls go for a camping trip assignment, and while they're hiking, I think their dialogue and their behavior is pretty cute.
Oh, those are cute.
You thought of everything.
Bloom brings spare boots for Stella, knowing that Stella will not wear this type of shoes, you know, like the right type of shoes for hiking. And the animation, the way that they interact, all of it is cute. I even like the outfits. They're not as inventive as the earlier seasons were, but they are probably the best set of outfits for this season when it comes to activity related looks to compare to like the concert outfits, for example. This episode also seems to be better animated. I don't know why. I guess maybe it's like a different animation studio. I don't know, dude. But it looks less awkward.
Stella, we told you not to.
The only thing that jumped out at me was the bonfire scene where space once again stopped being real because Flora was sitting right here, Musa right here. Here's Aisha, here's Stella. Then Bloom and Tekna join them and they sit down right here. Bloom, Tekna. So tell me how Flora goes from here to being right here and putting her hands on Bloom's shoulders within one shot. Here she was, now she's here. How the hell did that happen? Then the next shot after we see Musa for 1 second is Flora being back here with Aisha being on her lap. How the hell did that happen? Right after that, she's back with Bloom again. And the thing is, the scene then starts to make more sense after that jumping around because everyone starts to move around and sing parts of the song interacting with each other in a way that kind of makes it look like it's like a music video or they're trying to have a little bit of a montage without being too montagey about it. It's just that beginning part that gets real weird where Flora is just everywhere all at once and everyone else is just chilling. Like Stella was in the same spot the entire time, Yusa's in the same spot, Aisha in the same spot, Tekna, Bloom, but just Flora is everywhere all at once. I also like that hologram guy that's in the fortress, in the Light Rock Fortress. It's a subtle change in terms of the dialogue, but it's actually really entertaining to see him interact with Bloom and it having a little bit more humor. I think it did help quite a bit. Yeah, let's talk about the goddamn episode 9, the simulation room. Yeah, it needs to be its own point. It's point 6. It's just so weird. Let me start with a positive. We get to see the library and the library looks great. The woods and the light is really beautiful in it. However, when Vexius joins that scene, he looks like a plastic figurine in the middle of this whole like lush scenery. It doesn't make any sense that he's there. He looks very out of place. I think it's probably the lighting that contributes a lot to that and maybe the way that they've done his textures. I don't know. If you're an animator, let me know why the hell he looks so out of place there. But the simulation room, it basically plays on the stereotype of these trials and magical schools that have to do with fears and you overcoming them to get like a grade or whatever. The exam is overcoming your fear or whatever the hell. Very common. And Bloom is the first to go into the simulation room. She has a pretty generic vision of not being able to help her friends. Then, dude, I was floored when I realized that the entire class can see the simulation. Literally watch your biggest fears. They can just do that. They're doing it. It's like part of the class. Don't get me wrong, it's not uncommon for fantasy stories or movies, shows, whatever, to use fear as part of education system. Like we've talked about this before, I think, and just remember Divergent, for example. Winx itself had a storyline like that in season 5 when they were overcoming their fears to get Cyrenix, or when they were doing simulation rooms to get their grade in exams or whatever. But it was never those two things at the same time. It was never your deepest fears or your psychological issues in combination with it being a class that people can observe. That's just weird, plain and simple. Bloom's trial was kind of normal. It gets a lot weirder after that. I'm gonna tell you that much. Stella goes next, and first of all, her dad.
My pretty daughter and her silly...
Oh my god, what the hell is that? Did they make her dad like this on purpose? Like they looked at him and they said, hell yeah, that's our guy? Because Jesus, like, what the hell? Anyway, her fear is her father deciding to basically wage wars with their ally nations, which is valid, but then it's also this.
Let's hope I have a son one day to inherit my throne. Who would take her seriously? Queen of Solaria.
So sexism, I see. In Solaria. So let me get this straight. Bloom's dragon flame belonged to her father before her, instead of her mother. Bloom's flame now is split into 2 with another character who's a guy. And now Stella is afraid of her dad wanting his son to inherit a throne. And yeah, it's a nightmare, sure, but these types of thoughts, they don't come out of nowhere. They usually come from somewhere. This means that sexism is now canon in Solaria at the very least. And yeah, if you forgot, this is all happening in front of everybody. The bullies, the friends, it doesn't really matter. Everyone can see it. And is this like psychological torture class? What the hell in exposure therapy but without privacy rights is going on? Flora's trial is stupid as hell actually. She's in nature, rain starts and she's upset about it. She's trying to stop it, she can't stop it with her magic. And it's supposed to show that this area is like suffering from it, I guess, or like dying from it. And
Force of nature! I can't do anything to help.
It is nature though, dog. It would make more sense if Flora was like a non-interventionist when it comes to things like nature being violent, which could also potentially be a point of contention between all the Winx girls. That would make sense. But no, we don't get that. It's like really, it's nonsense. Tekna is afraid of being bullied by Winx or being misunderstood. Musa is afraid of her dad getting kicked out of her house because she can't support him. All of this in front of their bullies. This is ridiculous. Also, welcome back Winx class inequality without addressing it systematically. Yes, we're back at it again. Maisha is afraid of disappointing her parents.
Look at you, Winx, with your tragic little fears.
Like, this is insane, dude. Just bullying in class in front of the teacher. And you know what? Stormy threatens them as soon as they leave the simulation room. Not only is Palladium, their professor, is there, he uses that threat as a jumping off point to be like, yeah, actually, Trix, you should go in too.
What you should really be worried about is us.
Speaking of fears, girls, it's your turn.
And they go in together, as if that makes sense, because everyone else was supposed to go in alone, but they get like what, special treatment or something? It makes no sense. Also, Damien leaving instead of going in front of everyone, that's actually the most real thing he's done the entire season or the entire 13 episodes that I've seen him, because this is so inappropriate. I'm not even gonna get into how silly their fixes for this situation are. At this point, I'm like, what, 26 pages into the script? So we're gonna do some rapid fire points because some of these things are gonna have to wait until we see the entire season. Episode 10, why does Stella walk like that? She's supposed to be princess, not Gollum. Why would she ever wear her regular outfit for a date except for putting on a tiara, and that tiara having those ugly ass purple stones? They're not even like looking properly like the actual stones. It looks like an Amazon tiara. Horrible. I'm telling you, it's like a mixed bag all the time. Pretty good message, for example, in this episode, to not believe online profiles. A pretty fun dynamic between Brandon and Bloom. They're kind of becoming friends, but a horrible, horrible fight scene a la Acheron fight in 3D finale of season 6. Remember that? Yeah.
You can't escape me, Bloom.
Oh, and a horrible pant rip for Brandon. I mean, as if he hasn't suffered enough with that face. I just don't get it. Also, Darcy has a horrible voice. It just doesn't fit her. I'm not saying that the actress has a horrible voice. I'm saying that Darcy shouldn't have that voice in particular.
Your friend Bloom has the dragon flame. We want the dragon flame. This is how we'll get it. Simple enough?
They're not a good fit. It's more like a Stormy voice to me, to be honest. Also, their transformation looks, they look a lot better when they're in those dark rooms with clubbing scene lights than usual, you know? And they tried harder in terms of animation in the Bloom/Daphne scene. But Daphne should have been a lot less opaque. It doesn't suit her design to be so solid. It looks weird. Bloom looks good in this scene though. Even her wings start to move different. They move so much better, it's crazy. It's a little transparent, it has a gentle bend to it, the hair finally moves, dude. The front pieces, the bangs, not the back. The back would like bump sometimes in the other scenes, but the front was solid. It would like move slightly sometimes if the wind is really, really strong. But the hair is actually moving quite a bit. It's crazy. Did they spend their entire budget on this? That's just what it looks like. You know, they low-key fumble it in the dialogue section when they go to a different room. Daphne tells Bloom about Damien being her brother. Bloom reacts in a pretty funny way. She just kind of runs off 5 meters off from where she was standing.
Damien.
Damien?
And then she just gasps, and Daphne's like, Bloom, please get a hold of yourself. While Bloom is just like standing there being like fully normal, like she wasn't actually freaking out or anything like that. It's kind of comical.
Vexius is not his real father. Bloom, please get a hold of yourself. I still have so much to tell you.
And the last thing, the Damien problem. Damien gives his power to Vexius for reasons that don't matter. He can get his power back if he believes that the person he gave it to does not deserve it. There is also a spell, okay? I thought he would have to do the spell himself. That would make the most sense, right? Because he needs to believe that he needs his power back. He needs to believe that that person cannot wield this power or whatever. And for most of the episode, I thought that was the case because Bloom kept on trying to change his mind. Then when she uses the spell herself, it doesn't work. So I was like, oh, okay, so he's supposed to do it himself. That's where they're kind of like leading this. By the way, it's actually so funny that he's always like not believing her. Like, bitch, look at yourself and look at her. You look like gender bent versions of each other. Anyway, her dragon pose, like dragon transformation pose, whatever, pretty cool. But again, I'm biased because it's a dragon thing. They do the spell again and it only works because he sees Flora getting hurt. But girl, like, he should have done it himself. Come on now, like...
I am the Dark Lord. I am not afraid of a tween.
Oh, Damien, he's just not likable or evil or misguided enough. Like, it's everything is just like not enough. Do you know what I mean? This would have given him some agency. Do you know what I mean? They don't define how much of this mind control magic, like how much control it actually has, because he oftentimes sounds like he's making his own decisions. It's really, really strange. The most important thing is that someone clearly needs to intervene. He clearly needs that help. And somehow, for some reason, Daphne does not choose to reach out to him. She chooses to only talk to Bloom. Why? Since a lot of these questions, like for example, Trix not being the main villains but being like minions, can be resolved in the second half. In this particular example, maybe they're trying to redeem them. That's why they're kind of kiddified in terms of their impact and what they can do on their own, you know? I think it's better to leave this here in that sense until part 2, like some of the things, so I can finish some of this analysis with the full picture in mind type of deal. This reboot, I don't know. If it's AI produced, this video was a waste of fucking time. It took me so long to write all of this. This script is long as fuck. Only real art made by people, even if it's not a masterpiece, even if it's dookie, that's the only type of art that deserves any proper critique, any in-depth critique when someone actually gives you pointers and tells you what worked and what didn't. Only real art deserves that type of shit. AI does not deserve any effort whatsoever. So I'm gonna hope that it's not AI, because otherwise I have sunk an extraordinary amount of time into this for like nothing. So a lot of these points I did not elaborate on because they're for later. I need to know the entirety of the picture, so don't worry about it. If you're in the animation industry, especially if you're in Italian animation industry, I would love to hear more from you. My eyes literally so fucked. Oh yeah, and you know what? I was just flabbergasted by the fact that this season is written in English, okay? It's gonna be translated in Italian. I don't think that's right. I'm sorry, guys. Like, I just don't think that's right. Winx is Italian. Come on now. Because English was really something in this, with a lot of sentences not making any sense. It does not read like a native English speaker wrote it. That's what's so confusing about this, because I checked, like, for example, the intro episode, the second episode, I checked some of the other episodes where there's weird moments that do not mean what it's supposed to mean, things that a native speaker wouldn't say, things that don't actually have the meaning that they're trying to get across. I will be back with more thoughts on this. My eye is fucking killing me. I'm gonna be back when, like, in spring, I guess, when we have more information on this. I hope you had a good time watching this. I hope it wasn't boring, and I'll see you next time.